A couple of weeks ago, West Lynn voted in 23-year-old Rory Bielostowski as their new mayor. That's the youngest elected mayor in the history of West Lynn. So as Gen Z begins to take office, older generations are taking notice and wondering what kind of leaders they'll turn out to be. Like, will West Lynn really change all that much just because their new mayor has never been to a Blockbusters? Today on CityCast Portland, we're sharing a conversation we aired earlier this year between our Gen Z audio producer, Julia Fiaioni, myself, and Oregonian reporter Lizzie Acker. We discussed a poll that named our city the best living destination for Gen Z. And through it, Lizzie and I, both elderly millennials, tried to understand our rising TikTok overlords. It's Wednesday, May 31st. I'm Claudia Meza, and this is what Portland's talking about. Why would anyone say that Portland is the best city in the US for Gen Z? Also, what is a Gen Z?
What is a Gen Z?
And Julia hates that I say a Gen Z, but I'm doing this just specifically to annoy Julia. She's like, it's Gen Zer.
It's working.
Well, I should say, I did not come up with this. This was a company called Living Cozy that said that Portland is the number one place. But they said it was because of this access to mental health care and physicians. I would say maybe the mental health care, though, as what I know about Gen Z, they're all on the internet.
So that was it?
No, that was also because of the state of Oregon has the largest LGBTQ plus community. Portland is perfect if you love green spaces. So apparently Gen Z likes those two things as well.
Julia, does that ring true? Are you here because you need mental health services and you're gay?
That's probably what it boils down to. But that doesn't sound completely off base. I don't know about physicians specifically. That seems like a boomer thing. But when I think back to why I moved here, I was living in Toronto at the time, and Toronto's not a very affordable city. And I thought Portland was at least more affordable. So that was kind of the draw initially. And then when I had got here, I had realized how much I had appreciated the green space, that I felt very accepted being who I am as a queer woman, and it became a much easier environment to live in. So those things are true. I don't know if that was something I learned once I got here, and I've grown to be more comfortable because of it. So maybe it is a Gen Z city.
I mean, I think it's a young people city. I mean, not like necessarily just a young people city. It's a city you move to. I mean, I am from Oregon, I will say, and I lived in San Francisco for my 20s. I came back here because it is an easier place to live. It's more affordable in San Francisco. If you want to like live in a vibrant place with things happening, but you also want to save the teeniest amount of money or like live in a place without 18 roommates or something, it's a place you can live, you know? Oregon is a great state in terms of, I don't know, bodily autonomy. I'll leave it at that.
So are you saying that it's better to be younger in Portland right now than it is to be older?
No, I think it's good to be older in Portland too. I think it's actually, I just turned 40 recently, so I feel like pretty old. I'm like an old millennial, you know, and I have a kid, and I could not imagine having a kid in San Francisco. That's actually one of the reasons I moved back.
Yeah, there was an article written on the other side of the topic, came out of Willamette Week from Anthony Effinger. He wrote that Gen Xers and older millennials are bailing Portland in record numbers. And he actually had numbers, like he had like stats rather than a reference to.
Wow, Willamette Week has stats. Sorry. I used to write for Willamette Week. I'd like to keep that beef going, you know.
Oh, you got stats, Willamette Week?
Yeah, ooh, I've got feelings.
Lizzie's got Living Cozy.
Right.
I'm also an older millennial. You're claiming that as well, and you're just like, this is a great place, but people are leaving, you know.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think I would have to look at those stats. I'm sure people are leaving. I think you get to a certain age and you're like, you want things to be easier, or you become more conservative. Maybe you want to own a house. And it is expensive to live here. Or maybe you want to have a kid and you also want to like eat every month. You know, like
just once a month, like a snake.
Just like one meal a month. I mean, it is really expensive, and it's cheaper than some of the other big, you know, fancy cities. I mean, my friends who live in New York City, for example, it's always a struggle.
Mhm.
So if you want more space, I can see it. But I also think I don't want to leave Portland because I think it's pretty fun. And I grew up in a small town also. And I love the idea that my kid will get to like ride the bus and have access to like museums. And, you know, there might be other things to do than just drink in someone's cornfield or something.
What about you, Julia? Do you think that Portland is right now perfect for the older folks or the Gen Z?
I think it is easier to be a Gen Z in Portland right now. I think, and it's a conversation about a lot of the things you mentioned, Lizzie, where it's like the comfort of stability versus like the freedom of precarity.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a young person, you likely don't own a house. You likely don't even care to. You don't care about having a house or having kids. Those opportunities that may have been have died for us. It feels that way. Like everything's going to burn, everything's going to crap.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just move on and make do with what we have. So if you're a renter and you don't necessarily like the area of Portland you're in, you have the freedom to just go rent somewhere else. And your rent's going to raise anyway, so you might as well move at the end of your lease. So it becomes easier that way. There's a little bit more freedom.
I think that is like also an age thing versus a generation thing, because I think like I had a kid when I was 37 and I bought a house when I was like 35. So I feel like before that, I was always like, I'm never going to buy a house. Doubt I'm going to get married. You know, like the world is burning. Everything is like, might as well just, you know, just live in the moment. And then maybe not to be too hopeful, but because the world is burning, don't get me wrong. But I think maybe you get to a certain point, you're like, well, I am still here. It hasn't burned. I do exist. And in a lot of ways, the world has gotten better. I don't know. So, and then I had a kid. So now I like, it has to get better. There's no option.
Yeah, I personally feel like Portland has always been a city for, you know, the quote unquote Gen Z, but not so much like specifically Gen Z, but young people. And it's been like that in the making for like 20 years.
Yeah.
Like we've been canceling people in Portland decades before Gen Z even came up with that word.
Yeah.
You know, like you know, we've been self-policing how we say things and trying to be very sensitive to people's feelings and just things that maybe, you know, previous generations didn't really care about or just thought was funny to poke at, you know? And I feel like Lizzie, our generation, really like started changing that language.
Totally.
And now everyone in Gen Z thinks they're being bullied.
That's true.
All right.
You know, like my cousins who are older than me, they lived in Portland when I was like a kid, before there was even millennials, even was a word, you know, pre 9/11.
Oh my God. I'm sorry. No, you don't understand. Julia, can you just give your note right now? Because when we were talking about this, I was like, so what do you know about millennials? And Julie, what do you know about millennials?
Talking about getting canceled, this is going to get me canceled.
Oh, good. I'm ready to cancel you.
Hold on.
Get ready. So here we go. I think generally Gen Z doesn't care at all about 9/11, almost in like a joking way. And millennials will use it as a part of their personality. And
I wouldn't say personality. I would say demarcation of time.
Right. Yeah.
There was a pre and post. We were conscious. We saw the TV. We saw the awfulness. And there was like a shift of consciousness. Not that any other generation before us didn't also experience that, but we were like at the young, impressionable age.
We
like
were very impressionable.
I remember for a week, I couldn't really do much. Like I was just like, oh my God, like I would dream about it. Like I was just like, oh my God, that can just happen. But I get what Julia's saying.
I have never even I grew up without a TV, and I was like a couple weeks between finished my senior year. See, this is it. This is the millennial thing. I'm going to tell you where I was on 9/11.
Tell me your story. What were you eating?
Exactly. I was in Corvallis, Oregon. Yeah. I mean, I was completely on the other side of the country. And you have to also know that this
Sorry, I just hate that we just walked right in that one.
We did.
We walked
but
right in.
I want to hear Lizzie's story.
I was 18 years old. The next day, I tried to organize a peace rally in my town because I was like, this is it. You know, we're going to go to war. And everything is going to change. And everything did. I mean, people my age were signing up for the military, or even worse, had already signed up because it was like, this is the way to get to college. We're not ever going to be at war. And then suddenly they were in war. And that did affect everybody. I mean, the whole thing affected everybody. And it is a joke, too. It is a joke we make as a joke. We say because 9/11 a lot as a joke.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, my daughter was 5 months old when the COVID pandemic started. And I have a feeling that in 20 years, you're going to be sitting on some virtual reality podcast. And there's going to be some young person being like, why do you guys always talk about COVID?
And then I'm going to have my COVID story for
like,
sure.
Well, I remember the day they shut it all down.
Yeah, I hear it. I can see that.
Okay, let's take a break here. When we return, I would love it if you two swapped advice, like some millennial wisdom for Gen Z and vice versa.
Hey, CityCast Portland, it's Michael Ziviak. While CityCast Portland works hard every day to connect you with the stories that matter most, I'm working in the background making sure that our listeners are connecting with the best that Portland has to offer. So what does that look like? It means meeting with the people who make Portland what it is, the business owners, the stakeholders, the decision makers, the Portlanders who put together those food festivals you enjoy, the concerts you attend, the exhibits you can't miss, and who make those candles your mom can't stop talking about. If this sounds like you, let me help you get your message out to the city's best audience with an ad right here on the CityCast Portland podcast and on our sister daily newsletter, Hey Portland. Shoot me an email at ads@citycast.fm and let's connect.
Lizzie, you write an advice column. Could you guys maybe give each other advice from your generational vantage points? Julia, I feel like we've been dominating this conversation, even though it's kind of about you.
Classic us.
Classic millennial. Julia, what would be your advice to Lizzie? Me too. I'll listen.
I'll get right into this with some low-hanging fruit. I'm surprised no one's brought this up yet, but the whole skinny jeans conversation.
Oh my God. I am not wearing skinny jeans. I just want to.
I don't believe it.
Camera back on. Look at, these are the baggiest jeans. I haven't worn these baggy jeans since middle school.
Okay, thank you.
Let's just let her get through.
Fine.
You know she worked on this all night. Go on, Julia.
Yeah, and just style in general. I feel like a lot of millennials dress like your early 2000s fourth grade elementary school teacher that's showing up just a little bit hungover from last night. You know who I'm talking about. That's a millennial style right there. Just picture it for a second.
I don't know any of those because in the early 2000s I was in college.
Well, there you go.
I was hungover, not a little bit.
Yeah. Is there more, Julia?
There's more. So,
okay, go on.
On a more...
Lizzie's walking away right now. No, you come back here, Lizzie.
Just two more things. So another point on just like general aesthetic. I feel like millennials, for some reason, tie a part of their personality to a corporate brand, like Disney adults, people who are obsessed with Harry Potter. That's a very millennial thing. While Gen Z will tie their personality or their aesthetic to a vibe. So like I'm feeling very like sad girl fall right now, like things like that. I don't know which one's better, but I feel like you can learn a little bit from us just to move away from the corporate nonsense. And then the last thing, this one's more sincere. Be more unapologetic for advocating for yourself and in the workplace. I feel like millennials will quietly quit while Gen Z will just straight up not show up to prove a point about how things aren't good in the workplace. And I feel like there's something to learn about that and that pushback. There's something important there, but that's all.
That's all. Okay. That's all.
I feel like I need like a little bell, like you know, like bing.
Well,
ding, ding, ding.
First of all, no. But I think those are interesting, and I think we can always learn from each other. And you know what? I understand what you're saying, but you know, a lot of us kind of came into the workforce around 2008, which was a massive recession. I got my first really real professional job because a bunch of people got laid off, and I was hired as a temp. And so starting off your career in that way means that we've been getting paid less, we've been expecting less, and we've been getting laid off a lot in our lives. So we are, I would say, a little more deferential to people in charge because we want to maintain our jobs. And so my advice coming from that perspective for Gen Zers is to learn how to take criticism in a positive way.
Claudia, your face. What's going through your head right now, Claudia?
No, I'm having a great time. And I'm just so glad I'm not in this. So go on, Lizzie. Keep going.
I'm saying,
you're in this.
I just sort of coined this, and I think I would make it a shirt that feedback is not an attack. Okay, feedback is how we grow, and I think that is my main piece of advice for Gen Z. Also, I've seen thongs coming back in.
Oh no!
And I just want to say that a lot of us went through a lot of horrible fashion. We are trying to help you. Okay, we don't want you to have to deal with what we dealt with, which was horrible low-cut pants that you couldn't even sit down in, that your butt was hanging out, and thongs that like make you bleed. I mean, geez Louise.
Oh my God!
Let's just. I'm sorry. I'm just saying, like, we've been through it and we don't need to go through it again.
In the spirit of bringing back trends that maybe shouldn't, Julia, so the reason why, for one, I just want you to know the millennials did not invent skinny jeans. Skinny jeans have been in, the fashion lexicon for like ever. I think the reason we really clinged on to them was one, that's literally the only pair of pants you could buy forever if you like didn't want to spend hundreds of dollars on pants. But also two, it was in reaction to like elementary, middle school obsession of wearing baggy clothes. And I feel like that's coming back. And I think what happened was once we saw ourselves in something that wasn't shapeless, we're just like, look at us go. We may not be able to get a job, but look at that butt, like.
Yeah, exactly. But I also, you know what? I'm wearing baggy jeans right now and they're comfortable. High-waisted baggy jeans.
Yeah, that's the one thing I'm really into. I do appreciate a high waist. But here's the deal.
Much.
I love the non-genderizing fashion, but now everyone looks like a divorced dad, like hoping you'll go mini golfing with him.
Those sunglasses?
Yeah, they'll just come through and they're just like, we're still a family. That's what I see. I see a Gen Z.
Do you want some ice cream?
Yeah. So who's your mom? Who's your mom hanging out with?
Oh my God! Just keep going.
So I don't know, Julie. My piece of advice to you: literally, what are you wearing right now? Come on.
Don't even mention it. Just don't mention it.
You're literally wearing two sweaters on top. You're wearing a hoodie with a sweater on top of that hoodie. And a baseball
cap.
This is the thing that makes me mad. Is she looks so adorable.
Yeah, very
She looks so good because she's young.
Stop.
She looks like how cute is it when little kids dress up like adults? It's adorable.
Oh, man.
So her hat is so cool.
You started it, Julia. We were playing nice.
I started it. Good. I'm glad.
I'm saying you should own it. Just be like, look, I look great. I feel great. This is the youngest I'm ever going to be.
I feel like this has turned into an advice for Julia episode.
Well, thanks so much, Lizzie, for taking the time to walk us through your article. Julia, thank you for sitting through all this. I'm excited for one day, for Julia to write a similar article, but it's more like, thank God the millennials are leaving. I'm like sincerely looking forward to that.
I would read it, but I'm never going anywhere. I love it.
Is that a threat?
Man, I feel like I know we're all in remote location. I wish you two could hug before we left just for the audience. Like, oh,
I know.
Yeah. I think we would be friends. I mean, I actually love the fact that we can communicate and talk about this stuff because I felt so isolated when I was your age from the people that were older than me.
It's funny, Lizzie. I struggled to wrap my head around this conversation of generations because I'm considered the resident old lady of my friend group. I'm 23 years old, but a lot of my friends who are of Gen Z always make fun of me because I don't get the references they're making or the slang. But I also have a lot of friends who are in their 30s or 40s that I connect with. So I'm confident we would be friends. I'm not doubtful of that at all. But at the end of the day, maybe this is just a bunch of corporate BS anyway. So
it's all about who's young. They just want our money. And what we will give them back is our friendship with each other.
All right.
There we go.
There we go. Welcome,
We're gonna end on that.
Welcome to Portland, Gen Z.
Yeah, we love it. We stay as long as you want.
Before we go, I wanted to invite you to take part in a survey. It's going to help us learn how we can make CityCast Portland an even better, more useful podcast for you. We'd be super grateful if you went to citycast.fm/survey. It's going to take you about 5 minutes. Not only would you be doing us a really big favor, but anyone who takes the survey will be eligible to win a $250 Visa gift card. And from my very rough calculations, that'll buy you at least 4 pairs of skinny jeans and 2 dad baseball hats. All right, that's all for today here on CityCast Portland. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Until then, see you at Slim's.